What is up, math superstars? In this edition of Mr. Peterson Presents, I'm bringing to you the last little parts of Objective 6.18. We're going to talk about one-step equations using models. And so just a quick little refresh here. So we're given this problem, x plus 3 equals 6. So we know that we need to, if we're going to solve this just using the steps, we would take away 3 from both sides of our equation. We'd bring down our variable on the left-hand side. We write x. We bring down our equal sign. And then we would do 6 minus 3, giving us 3. So we know that x would equal 3. So here's how this would look if we drew out a model here. And so what we were given right here, this is called an Algebra Mat. And so with this Algebra Mat, there are a few things that we need to identify before we get started. So anytime you're given some kind of model, you're always going to have here the key. The key will tell you what everything means. And so here our key tells us that this red rectangle, or we'll just draw rectangles. So the rectangle that I'll draw, it would be equal to the variable x. And anytime I draw a circle, it will be equal to 1. And so with our algebra map, so after the key, this is just a very simple mat. We have our equal sign in the middle. And then we have everything that's going to be on the left-hand side of our equation here. We notice that there is a positive and a negative. All that's going to tell us that if I put a circle in the negative, that means that we're going to subtract 1. And if I put a circle in the positive, that means I'm going to add 1. And the same thing for the right-hand side. We notice that there is positive and there is negative. So let's go ahead now and we're going to talk about this model here and how we can do this. And so our very first step here, we're going to model x plus 3 equals 6. So in the model here, I'm going to draw out one rectangle. One rectangle means I have x. Now I need to draw out my positive 3. So I'm going to use the circles for that. So right now I drew out on the left-hand side of my equation x plus 3. Now I need to draw out 6 on the right-hand side. So I'm going to make sure I'm in the positive section. Let's go ahead and draw out 6 circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Very nice. And so the way we're going to model this here is that we need to get our variable x by itself. So in order to get x by itself, we need to take away 3 from its side. So we're going to take away those 3 positive circles. And so we know that whatever we do on the left-hand side, we need to do to the right-hand side. So we're going to take away 3 circles. And we're going to identify what is left here. So we have 2 pieces that are left. We have our first piece on the left-hand side is x. We always have an equal sign. That never goes away. And then we figure out what is left. We count our parts. 1, 2, 3. So we know that we have x equal to 3. And so we choose a simple model to figure this out. So what about x minus 2 equals 4? So let's go ahead and solve that using our steps. So we know that the opposite of subtracting 2 is adding 2. So let's go ahead and add 2 to both sides of our equation. So we're left with x being equal to 4 plus 2 gives us 6. So let's talk about how this is going to work here. So we're given the same key. Our first step is identify what the key is. So let's say we have our rectangles and circles. So you notice that we're going to draw out one rectangle here. So there we have x. And now we have subtracting 2, so let's go ahead and put 2 circles in the subtraction box. And our equal sign stays the same, so that's very nice. And let's go ahead and do the right side of the equation, which is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now our goal is to get our variable x by itself. And so in order to do this, we need to move our friends. So if we're taking away 2, we're going to do the opposite. So we're going to add 2 to both sides. The way this is going to look is we're just going to move our 2 circles over. And then what we do after we move them, so these guys are now gone, we moved them over here to the right side of the equation, and then we count out the total number of circles that we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So after we go ahead and show our little model here, we're given x is equal to 6. So what about multiplication? So if we did the steps, we're going to show we're dividing both sides by 3 to get x by itself. So we have x on the left-hand side. We always have our equal sign. And then we do 6 divided by 3 is what that says. When we do that, it comes out to 2. So here's how we can show this using our model here. So we have 3x. So now we're going to draw out 3 rectangles. This is showing me that I have 3x on the left side. And on the right-hand side of the equation, I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now in order to show how we can get x by itself, we need to make some groupings here. So we notice we have 3 variables on the left-hand side. That means we need to have 3 groups on the right-hand side. So let's go ahead and group our friends over here. So we have our first group, we have our second group, we have our third group. And so now we need to figure out how many is just in one group. So we know that our one group here has 2. So we can say that 1x, so our friend x, would be equal to 2. So now you might be given different types of models here. Our biggest thing, our very first step is we're going to identify what the key is. Always, always, always. So we're given this model, we're given this equation x plus 3 equals 6. You might say, we already did this, but we're just going to show you a different type of model here. So we have square this time equal to x. We notice that we have a circle here that's blank. That's going to equal positive 1. And if it has a little minus sign, it equals negative 1. So let's go ahead. We're going to draw out this equation here. So we're going to put a box and then plus 3. So that tells us we have x and then plus 3 needs to be equal to 6. So let's draw out 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now if we were to get x by itself, we would take away these 3. But what would happen is the balance would become uneven. So we need to make sure we take away 3 from the right side. So we get x by itself, and we're left with 3. And in the middle, here our friend right here that's holding it all together in the middle, that's going to be our equal sign. So we can say that x, oops, be a different color here, be helpful. We say that x equals 3. And so for the same thing with subtraction, all we're doing is just we're identifying what the key is here. So our key is the same. So we have x, and now we're going to draw out minus 2. Put little sad eyes in there. And that's going to equal positive 4. So we're just going to draw those out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we need to go ahead and transfer. Let's go and transfer our subtracting 2 over to the other side. So when we move these guys over, they become positive. So these guys go on this side. So then we're left with x being equal to, and we just count our pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all positive. And then let's add our 2 other positive friends. 5 and 6. So we say that x is equal to 6. And last but not least here, we have 3x is equal to 6. So what we do is we can draw out 3 boxes is equal to positive 6 on the right hand side. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now we know that we have 3 boxes on the left hand side. That means we need to make 3 groups on the right hand side. Let's go ahead and make our 3 groups. So here's our first group, we have our second group, and we have our third group. And so then we just figure out how many is in one group, because we have to figure out how many is just in one box. So for our x, this is going to equal, we count the pieces in one group, 1, 2. We know that there are 2 pieces in that group.